Hey guys, my name is Mike, and I don't make games. That being said, let's take a look at the game that I'm currently creating. And to do that, we're going to have to look at some Magic cards. Magic the Gathering, that is. Here's one. This is my favorite Planeswalker. He's super powerful, but I think he's a little too powerful for this video. So instead, we're going to take a look at two cards here that I got out of a thing I bought. Now, I don't play a whole lot of Magic. I play a little bit, and I like buying the pre-made decks. So here we have two cards. This is what you would call like a vanilla minion. It is 4 mana and has stats of a 2/5, and it doesn't do anything. All this text right here is just flavor text, right? And here we have this Merfolk Wizard, Tempest Caller, that has, when Tempest Caller enters the battlefield, yada yada yada. It does a thing, but it has the same mana cost, also 4, and it has crappier stats, right? 2/3 instead of a 2/5, but it has some kind of ability. Now that's huge, right? The idea that I had was, what if we sort of merge these two things? I also play a lot of Hearthstone. So if you need to take a look at a Hearthstone card, here's one. This is a super legitimate Hearthstone card. And Hearthstone cards are statted a little bit differently than Magic the Gathering, but I think the sentiment is the same, where you have cards that do certain things and cards that don't do certain things but have better stats. And the idea that I had was, what if we made a game where every single card is a creature like this? Or like this. What if every single card is a creature, but can also be played as a spell if you want to? And there's a penalty for that, right? So just like here, look how, their stats are worse. The stats are worse on this card. And the stats are worse because it has some kind of an ability. But what if you mixed these and made one card out of them? Where you could play it as this and have the better stats. Or you could play it as this and have the worst stats with the ability. Now there's so many different trials and tribulations to be had with that kind of thing. And as far as mana goes, if you've ever played Hearthstone, we're going to use the same kind of mana that Hearthstone uses, which is just you get mana every turn. You don't have to draw it like in Magic the Gathering, where you got to draw these things and then pray that you have enough, and then, oh, I don't have enough, or oh, I only have mana. That can be super frustrating, because realistically, this project is me looking at games that I like playing and saying, hey, these are the things that I find frustrating. Let's kind of breed these out. And I've done so much in poking at different games over the years, and watching so many things and reading so many things. And I want to put it into a form that is finished entirely, even if the game isn't great, right? How much can we learn? We could learn so much by just creating something, even if it's not any good, front to back. So that's sort of my goal right here, is to create this game in the next month or so. It's not going to be 100% amazingly finished with art and everything. That's not going to be the point. The point is, at the end of a month, we're going to have two decks, right? We're going to have deck 1 and deck 2. And deck 1 and deck 2 are going to be balanced perfectly against each other. Kind of like in Magic the Gathering, they have these pre-made deck things that you could go out to the store and buy. So you'd buy this deck, and then you'd buy this deck, and then they fight against each other. And it would be kind of like that. You'd go and pre-purchase these, or the chances of this ever going on sale is slim to none. So let's talk more about the game. First, let's talk about some of the problems we have here. I have a notebook with all my notes in it. This is my notebook. Let's take a look at some of the notes. Alright, so we've got our pre-made decks. Every card is both a body and a spell. One fear is that the game would be too long, right? If every single turn you're casting minions, no matter what, you have creatures on the board, then does the game going to take too long? Is it going to every game going to turn into some 40-round control matchup? I mean, that wouldn't be necessarily terrible, to be honest, but it could get boring if that's it. There is a benefit to games that can be kind of swingy, right? I mean, it sucks to lose to a game that's really swingy, like you're winning or you're doing okay, and then the opponent top decks a card. He just pulls a card off the top. Oh man, he's got it. And that's it, and then you lost just because he top decked something. But there's something to be said for that sort of excitement, I suppose you could say. So the number one goal here is that every choice is meaningful. And how can we do that? That's a challenge, right? Making every choice meaningful. Realistically, that's the goal of every single TCG for Magic the Gathering or Hearthstone or L5R or whatever the hell else you want to play, is making all of these decisions meaningful. So you want to go and say, oh, do I play it as the vanilla guy and like have a better body on the board, or do I use this ability and do some cool stuff with it? Every single turn, you want to be making those choices. And in Magic, of course, you'd want to make those, but here it's different. Every card is both. And if every card is both, then you have even more choices at your disposal, I would think, right? We haven't made this game yet. I've designed the two decks, but they're not tuned, and I haven't play tested them against each other. And that's kind of where we're starting right now. You're starting from this point. Probably what I would say is the number one problem with all of this stuff. Oh man, it is such a nightmare. Is going to be. Oh man, hold on. I think I got a nightmare right here. Is going to be. You saw here. Look at that. This is his power and toughness. This is his ability. This is the mana. And that's it. All the information you need is right there. But if it's two things, and this is not a digital card game, keep in mind, I don't know how to code video games. I wish I could, but I just don't know how to. I don't know how to code video games. So how are we going to... I'm trying to look for my nightmare card. How are we going to make this into something that can be both? There we go. The nightmare. This is the nightmare. Is right now, how do you make this both things on a physical card? What you say, okay, certain things that I've thought of are, if you want to use it as your vanilla stats, that's it, but if you want to use it as like the crappier spell stats, we put a counter on it or something, that's terrible. You don't want to play like that. That's not going to be elegant or easy. Another way would be like, oh, maybe we like write it this way, right? Your very cool art, and it says deal 2 damage to a creature, and this is your vanilla stats. If you don't use this, right? So if we don't use this, it's a 3/4. But if we do use this, it's a 1/3, right? That's how do we convey that? Or like this, right? Maybe it's 2 boxes, right? And you like cover the one that you're using and put a counter on it or something like that. That's terrible. If we were playing an actual video game, that would be so much easier. How else do we do this? Index cards, super useful. We have our like toughness here, and whatever, and we have our mana cost, and we have our box with our text. I'm writing this upside down. Oh geez. We have our thing here, right? This is a generic Hearthstone card, essentially, right? That's the Lich King. Okay, that's the Lich King right there. You just won the game, except that he would be an 8 mana. 8. So that's the Lich King right there. How do you determine that? Anyway, so this is all just like, I'm just throwing up. I'm verbally vomiting all over you right now, because I don't have an answer to that. I've been thinking about it for weeks, and it is possible that there is no good answer for that. That is an option. Failure is an option in that way, but it's not necessarily failure, but changing is. Something that you hear over and over from game developers is that if you think something is a core mechanic, think again, because it is not. There's almost no such thing as an unchangeable core mechanic, right? At the end of a game, right, we can look at Magic the Gathering as it's evolved over 20-something years, or Hearthstone, or any other game. You look at a Diablo or something, and you can look at the core mechanics of the game. But at any point in the development of that game, those were negotiables. Unless you, like, maybe not for Diablo, right? Because, like, you can't not have loot in Diablo. That's stupid. But for me, for us as, like, schmuck amateur game developers, this is what we are. Everything is negotiable, because all we want to do is make a good game that's fun. And for me, I want to make a card game that is 2 decks, that every single card is a choose one, that every single turn you have meaningful decisions to make, that is balanced against each other, and that is fun to play. And fun to play is chief among those. So if any of those things don't work out, right? If the choose one thing doesn't work out, or the two decks fighting against each other. Maybe it should be more of a collectible thing. Maybe it's a draft only thing. Who knows? Either way, it doesn't matter, because at the end of a month or so, this will be done. My next step after I'm done with all of this is to put this into Tabletop Simulator, which is a Steam game. You should check it out if you've never seen it. It's exactly what it says it is. It's Tabletop Simulator. Put this in Tabletop Simulator and start playtesting against some friends who also have Tabletop Simulator. So that's kind of where we are right now with that. And I want to remove the frustrations of let's say, like Hearthstone, right? Hearthstone has so many frustrations for me, which is why I don't really play it as much anymore. Certain things like minions with charge, and charge means that when you put a minion out, they can attack your face immediately. And certain things like face damage in general, just in general face damage. So you're playing against a mage, and the mage has 2 fireballs in his hands. Okay, well, he can just deal 12 damage directly to your face. And that can be frustrating to lose against. So the way I thought was, what if you can only do damage to your opponent's life total through creatures or minions attacking? What about that? Would that work? I don't know. That would be really, really cool. And I think that would lead to a more control-y environment. It would lead to a game where these decisions are more important. So another thing that I wanted to go over was how, look, you have these two. This isn't that big of a decision to make. So the other day I was designing some cards, and I designed a card that was really good, right? It had a really good effect. And then I started thinking, well, that card has a really good effect. Why would you ever play that as the vanilla stats? Why would you ever do that? You would never do that. You would just hold it in your hand. You'd have a hand of cards. You'd be like, oh man, I can't play this guy. I can't play him because he's such a good spell effect. So I can't play him. And then at the end of the day, that's not a decision then. The decisions that I want to force the players to make are the decisions of, do I play this as a vanilla minion or do I play this as a spell minion? Again, remember that when you play it as a spell minion, you still get a body. It's just a shittier body. So then I thought, maybe I have to tone that down, and that is a little bit of a bummer, right? Having to tone down cool abilities you thought of. But it might have to for the sake of the game. What else we have? Removing frustrations. Going over my notes. I think we can end there because that's mostly it. I wanted to talk about the frustrations I have with Hearthstone, the nightmare that is going to be the logistics of this kind of thing in a real kind of game. Hearthstone, and then of course the everyone's favorite Planeswalker right there in Magic the Gathering. Magic the Gathering has its own problems, obviously, but I don't play that much, so I'm not privy to too many of them. So let's put a counter on this guy. He's a 1/1. So I'm going to be doing more videos on this. Hopefully once a week I'll be getting back to you guys with an update on this game, what I've been doing, because I want to sort of build it with you. I want to build it with the community. I want to build it with others in mind. And I want, if you're a game developer or an amateur game developer and you've never really made a game before, well, you and me are in the same boat. I've never finished a game. I've started many. I have notebooks filled with stuff. And I even have played this counter right here. I have because I was building a board game at some point. And I really like that board game. And I did a lot of work on it. And I would love to come back to it. But that's for a different time. So my idea was like, hey, what if I did like one game a month, but like not 100% finished, right? Well, we finished the game conceptually, but we're not going to get art or anything. But as somebody who doesn't have a whole lot of real game design experience, I think we have to start getting that, right? You and me, right? Both of us are trying to make games. We like games. We're making games, and in order to make games, you have to make games. So I want to leave it there. If you guys like the video, subscribe, even though I know this is like the only video on the channel right now, but there's going to be more. And also I want to do videos talking about the lessons that I've learned through other people's, say, blogs or books or videos or things like that, and how we're going to apply them to what we do now.